It's May 28th, 2014, and holy God, do I have some bills due. Um, well, we're sitting here in my house today with Miles Rose and Frank Falbo, and you can hear a little bit of noise in the background. We have a Monterey that a friend of mine brought in that needs a new EF86. So we're just going to play it. It still sounds great, just the tube's making noise. It's just sitting there crackling and hissing. I guess what amp techs would call tube shot. Not a shot tube, but the noise is tube shot. Um, but it just sounds really cool. We haven't played a Monterey on the show in years. So, see if I can give you a look at it. It's over there sitting on top. I got the hiccup, sorry. Of a Wizard 412. And there's Frank. Don't smile, Frank. Whatever you do, do not smile. um, nice. That's good. And then the color benders here, we might get to that today, not sure. Um, but we're just going to play some guitar and take some questions. And hopefully we can keep you entertained and satisfied, as it were, if you will, so to speak, per se, et al., pursuant to civil code, never mind. So anyway, we had some good questions going on here before. This is a Monterey. Rock and Roll Willie asked, did the Monterey ever get the master voltage feature? Yeah, it did. If it was made 2010 or after, they all have the master voltage by default. If it was made before then, we can upgrade it for you and pull out the master volume circuit.
Is that a high power or low power?
That's a regular low power one, 22, 23
Wow,
watts.
that's very loud for your 412.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of noise. It's very efficient. This is what Peter still plays with Cheryl. He's got a Monterey and a little Elvis out right now and a London.
That was one of my first, run-ins with you. I think you loaned us a Monterey for a while.
Oh, that's right. You guys have one up in Santa Barbara.
Yep,
Yeah.
and I tracked with it, and I loved it.
Oh,
I
thanks.
thought it was fantastic.
What does Jared play?
Jared Scharf has a Monterey on Saturday Night Live. That's right. Good point, Miles. And every year Jared keeps going, oh man, I want the new amp, I want the this, and I want the producer, and I want that. And then he calls me halfway through it and says, man, you know what? I love my Monterey so much.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick with it. And we just kind of retube it for him every couple of years. And
Don Felder, the Eagles, has a Monterey.
Don Felder with the Eagles plays a Monterey. Vince Gill bought some Montereys from us. Who else? There's a bunch of artists that play them. Yeah, they're still out on the road.
And people can still get them?
Oh, Josh Murdy's texting me right now. This is his amp. Doing the show
Yeah, sorry.
with
Tied up
your
right now.
amp.
Yeah.
Come on over.
Hi, Josh.
He wants that barbecue joint again.
Oh, my goodness.
Where'd you go?
Yeah, it's placed on the street.
Peter has a Ventura. He's got kind of everything out. It seems like lately
Cats?
with Cheryl on the country sort of thing. He's playing mostly little Elvis and Monterey, but he's got Empire and Tupelo and Ventura, and he's got it all. Chris something Combs without my glasses. Hi guys, tell Miles I said hi. I know you are not all down with the high gain metal tones guys are getting today, but I would love to see Dan's take on this style ahead. Any plans for this to happen? Well, Chris, you are right and you are wrong. You're right in that we are working on the whiskey is kind of our first step towards that. I like a lot of metal tones today. I just don't really dig the music. I don't know if that's kind of a backhanded compliment, isn't it? But I just don't enjoy. I think it's because I'm old. No, I like high gain stuff. Matter of fact, I have these Wizard amps here that I'm holding from my friend Rick St. Pierre that I think sound insanely good. And they're great. But I don't get into metal.
It takes a certain musical metabolism, I think.
Well,
You know?
it's not even so much the like. It's the vibe of the music that's angry.
Yeah.
and kind of unhappy.
Yeah.
And I just don't relate to that. I'm kind of even though I'm always an exhausted guy, I'm actually a pretty happy guy. in general.
I think people that play metal have really stupid looking guitars and they wear way too much bling shit.
Okay. This man does not speak for the greater companies that we are involved in.
Well,
Okay.
Miles is
I don't care.
63 now.
Yeah, I'm 65 and I don't give a shit
Are you
about
65?
Well, close enough that I can
Yeah.
claim it.
You're just saying that because of my ex, aren't you?
Oh,
Oh,
wow, you
yeah.
know what,
Yeah.
my birthday this year,
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I will be 65.
Are you going to be 65?
I am.
Wow.
Man.
We'll have to figure something out. And your
I asked
birthday's
my
in
ex-
July, right?
June
June?
25th, same day as Custer's last stand, start of the Korean War, and Michael Jackson's death.
It's no coincidence.
You know, it's.
That's right. You're a time traveler.
I asked my ex-wife,
Right.
will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? And she didn't even answer.
Mm.
She just walked
Oh, yeah.
away.
Hey, Hoss Thompson. No, Rich Robinson had Royal Alberts. He still does. He bought a whole bunch of them. I know he sold a couple of them, but he had like 6.
He was playing somewhere last night.
Yeah. Rob Clute says, I'm trying to wire up a high-power cab with a Creamback 75 and an Alico Golden Series. Can you tell me which way the signal will flow positive to negative so I can wire the Creamback first? You know, just look online for I'd have to draw it out for you, but just Google 2 speakers in series, and it'll show you how to do it. But if you're going to actually run them in series and not in parallel, you can just connect positive to positive. It should be fine. Isn't that right?
No.
In series, or you got to reverse them.
You basically come from the, tell them to come from the input jack to of the speaker cabinet, the plus lead hitting the plus lead of the
First speaker.
of the Creamback first.
Right.
Then take the negative lead from that speaker and go to the positive lead of the other speaker. And now you go from the negative lead of the second speaker back to the speaker jack. That'll put those in series. Is that what he wanted, series?
Yeah.
Okay. That'll put those in series, and you will be hitting the Creamback speaker first.
There you go. But it's easier just to look up and get a good drawing. Those are the kind of things I never think about till I actually open a cabinet and go, oh, this has to go there. Okay. But,
Which is how we did these cabinets a couple weeks ago.
yeah, we wired those ones up for the...
Stan said, how in the fuck do I do this? And
Right.
they told him that. Gave him that.
Yeah, I actually haven't wired up that many cabinets, to be honest. And every time I do it, I just look it up and go, oh, okay.
Right.
Here's the way to do it. I don't think about it that much.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have weakness and flaws.
Well, he has
Oh, that
also-
just
he
makes
has
you more
also
endearing.
Yeah.
High-priced labor to do that kind of stuff at the shop.
Well, I used to do it here, and then after a while, I realized I don't want to do this all day, every day. I don't want to assemble stuff. Can you ask Miles, what is his opinion on the Variacs in combo with amps? Remember, Dirty Boy amps had one built into the face of the amp.
I don't understand the question.
Do you like a Variac being used on an amp?
No.
I don't at all,
I don't know.
but
That's an old,
it's a cheap way to...
actually, Eddie Van Halen used to promote that that's what
Hey,
he
you
did.
can use that money. Well, he did, but he also roasted tubes like crazy.
He he used to be at Aspen Pittman shop
there was no- there
constantly
was-
buying new 6CA7 GEs.
But didn't he
as
buy
ones
them by
go
the
up.
gross?
Yeah, he bought them by the gross, and sometimes he'd even pull a tube out of
Right.
a quad of
Yeah.
tubes to get that really crappy, uneven, distorted mismatch tone
Right.
that when he wanted.
Maybe that explains why George Lynch's amp was like that. Remember when we were over at Brett and Bob's?
Yeah.
The amp sounded sick, but if you took your hand off the guitar, it was going...
Yeah, yeah.
And there was one 6CA7 and 2 matched
Yeah.
EL34s, and then like some random EL34. And
Jimmy Weigel used to all of his amps, also used to play with them.
right.
But no, I don't like, there's other ways of getting that without hurting your amplifier.
Well, the problem with the Variac is it drops all the voltage unilaterally.
So the current goes up.
Yeah, the current goes way up, but you're also dropping the heater voltage. So you got to have a certain amount of heater current and voltage on there to make the tube actually release electrons from the cathode. Otherwise, you're going to strip those cathodes pretty hard, which is what happens. And you just burn tubes really fast.
We'll just kind of slightly
Yeah.
relocate here, and now I can give Frank a big fucking kiss.
Whoa.
Oh,
Whoa, beep, beep.
I'm
yeah.
more offended by the word kiss than I am by your other potty mouth.
Your potty mouth. That's funny. That's very funny.
Yeah, I'm married
Yeah, buddy.
now. No means no, Kobe.
Do you work in the hotel?
Glad we kept this on a professional
It's good to be.
level.
It's good to be the king, Like, here's $8 million. Forget about it. Okay, for $8 million, Kobe could have his way with me.
Whoa.
Okay, maybe 9.
Yeah, pay up front.
Nah, $8 million cash, post tax.
Sure.
Yeah, halftime at the Super Bowl. That's funny. Anyway, KXM Rock. We're not big fans of Variacs. Plus, I don't really think it makes an amp sound any good. We just get distortion at low volumes.
Well, yeah,
That's all it
you get
does.
distortion, but the biggest problem is when you drop the voltage, the current goes up and you exceed the current capacity of many of the internal components in the amp.
Also, the power transformer.
Everything.
I mean, none of those power transformers are made to deliver a lot of current. And it's just tough on an amp. David Hayes, I had that with a Variac, need at least 90 volts AC to have adjustable bias. Yeah. How much voltage is too much on the 6B6s and a deluxe reverb? Which tubes are you talking about, Rock and Roll Willie? Lamatone says, from a design aspect, how low can you go with a 6L6 or an EL34? I think their shutoff voltage is around 110 or 120,
Yeah.
something like that. They'll actually just shut off. They won't work below that.
Actually, as far as 6V6s, what's the maximum voltage? The spec is like 330 or 350 or something, but as an example, on the JJs,
Yeah, they'll take 475.
I
all
took
day
a
long.
set of those when I was at Groove Tubes, and I plugged them into Aspen's Super Reverb that
Mhm.
had 475 plate volts
Yeah,
as a joke,
yeah.
and I biased them at where you would bias a 6L6
Mhm.
of around 32 milliamps, and I left it run all night with blankets over it, the amp facing down to blow these up. I expected them to blow up like in an hour.
Mhm.
They didn't, so when I left, I put the amp face down and left a
Right.
signal going into it from a CD player.
Just to harass everyone in the building.
Came back in the morning, because I was generally the first one in, and it was still working, so I gave up and said, okay, JJ beat me.
So he's saying RCA or other NOS. And it's been my experience, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Miles, but what you're saying is exactly true. The JJs actually take a lot more voltage than even NOS tubes
Anything,
do.
yeah.
With an RCA, I would say about 440, 430. You're
Yeah.
really kind of shortening the life of the tube. at
Yeah,
that
I
point.
haven't found a deluxe reverb. See, the whole thing is in a deluxe reverb, you can always buy, if you bias the tube to around 50 to 60% idle dissipation in a deluxe reverb,
Right.
the tube will last a really long time.
That, and you can drop the screens on it. If you put a big screen resistor on them, they'll last. 445 is okay. You're probably at the top end of comfortable.
And most deluxe reverbs are maybe around 4 1/4.
Well, they were when they were new, but you plug them in here in LA, where like I get
Yeah.
123 out of the wall. You'll get 450
Yeah.
out of your deluxe real easy. A lot of those really old amps like that, the Variac does come in handy if you want to adjust the wall current down to like 117, where those were designed for. Because here, if I measure here, I'm always getting 122 or 123. When we were at the old shop, which was right by a power station, if nothing else was on in the building, we'd get 126. And boy, that'll take an old AC30 or a deluxe and just really heat it up fast. So a lot of Vox nerds that I know, they'll take, if they've got an old JMI Vox, and if you remember, I blew up my AC30 right when the old taps there, they weren't really accurate, and so, they designed it for 115 in the U.S., and you're getting 7 more volts with a GZ34 rectifier. That's really 25 to 30 more volts on the plates, and those were already hot amps. So a lot of times, not only will the tubes pop, but in my case, my 64 AC30, all the shellac melted out of it, and the power transformer went on that trapezoid head that I had. The power transformer. So you just got to be careful. There's a lot of variables too. Like what's your screen voltage? Because like with a 6v6, if you run your screens at stupid low, like hi-fi levels, like 250, they'll take 450 or 500 volts all day long.
Who said TAD 6v6s can take up to?
Ustreamer 240 somebody.
Is that something you've actually measured, or is that something they're making a claim to?
That would be kind of surprising for me because the TADs are usually Chinese.
They are Chinese,
Yeah.
and they're not even as strong as the old black Russian tubes.
Yeah, I mean, you might have got a good set, so good for you. But that's pretty
Very
unusual. Yeah, no, I mean, it happens, but I think that's kind of unusual. And I think even on their book spec, they're still listing them at 350 or something. But
Oh, that's per their, did he say per their data sheet? Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah, you know what?
They're probably putting a 6L6 in a little bottle.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Everybody takes their data sheets. They take data sheets from the past, and what they do is they print their name on it or say it's their tube. I did a thing when I worked for GT. I used to take data sheet. I used to take every company's tube and come up with a real data sheet based on all of their tubes,
Right.
and they aren't even close.
Oh, yeah.
Data sheets today, tube companies don't even know what is on the data sheet level.
Well, I know we experienced that with a couple of manufacturers. The big bottle tubes that are supposed to take 700 or 800 volts, and they really couldn't take 450. And they go, "Well, you must be running your screens too hot." And I says, "Well, the screen voltage, the plate voltage is 800 volts, and it says the screens can do 7 1/4. I'm running the screens at 410." Like, oh, like how can? Yes, I'm running the plates at 450, and the screen's over 7 1/4. Like the tube won't operate.
I have some Facebook notes that I published, and also on my blog that I published on tests, like on the new KT, what's it called, 150 or?
There's a 120 and a
Yeah.
150.
Yeah, there's the big one that they claim all kind. I
Yeah.
did tests on all of these things, and I published the results, and on a number of tubes in the last year. And it's pretty laughable what people claim versus what the reality turned out to be.
Well, the real issue with tubes is the manufacturers, none of them are in the United States, so they're not legally bound to honor a warranty. If you have a good relationship with a tube distributor, they'll kind of take some back, but they're just selling to somebody else. So they're not legally bound to honor anything. They can say whatever they want about their tubes. Unless you're in the country, there's no way to enforce a warranty. So they just kind of look at you and go, "Well, I guess there's something wrong with your amp." Like, yes, it turns on. That's the problem with it. There's some good questions here. What's up with power transformers that look like they've leaked black wax? It's been overheated. That's the wax potting in there that's melted. Haas Thompson says, "Is your AC30 the case study on Mercury Magnetics website?" Maybe. I don't know. I didn't even know there was one on there. It could be. Most deluxe reverbs that I work on run 410 to 425.
Yeah.
I run the bias at 30 to 35. Yeah. Yeah, you can get a black face. I've seen lots of black faces at like 440. They get kind of hot. Palmer has a okay. Let's see, what is it saying here? In all caps, Chris yells.
Yeah.
Well, that's because he plays a triple rectifier.
He
So
probably can't
anybody
hear
that wants-
himself typing.
Anybody
Yeah.
that wants that many tubes and that
Yeah.
many rectifiers
Oh,
and an
yeah.
amp
Right.
wants everything to be big,
Right.
even their commentary.
So Chris, caps lock, brother, caps lock. He says, I just tracked some tunes with a Mesa triple rectifier running JJKT88s on the outside holes, 66s on the inside. This amp sounds incredible. What's your take on this?
Congratulations.
Cool.
If you like it,
Yeah,
it's cool.
that's how music is.
I
made.
think that's
Awesome.
I think
There's
that's really fun.
There's no right or wrong. If,
I wouldn't recommend doing that, but if you're digging it, I'm a manufacturer, so if I say something, then people will say Dan said to, and I'm holding him liable. So on the record, I wouldn't recommend doing
the
that.
thing is, Mesa over biases.
Don't they run their
that-
screens dead cold too?
Well, the whole tubes run cold. They over bias, so you can pretty much put anything
Mm-hmm.
in an output tube slot of most Mesa Boogie amps, and noise will still come out. They'll still be just fine.
Ah.
My Mark One, people look at that and they go, "How come you're using Sawtech 5881 WXTs? Aren't those the cheapest,
I don't know.
kind of junkiest tube?" And I said, "Yeah, but Mesas get all their tone from the front end. Doesn't matter what you use in the back end of these amps." So
So Haas Thompson says in the UK, Harma KT66s from Watford Valves are very well thought of. Yeah, Haas.
yes,
That's Derek over at Watford Valves, and the Harma line are ones that he's cherry picked and tested thoroughly, as Miles does to all tubes. But he's curve traced them and he's stress tested them at real voltages, and they perform outstandingly well. That's the Harmas, and it's like one of the Indian things. There's karma and harma and curry sauce. I don't know, but yeah, anything from Derek is pretty. Those guys really know what they're doing. In the UK, I think they're the place to shop, definitely. David Hayes says, I have a 1940s Newcomb with 2 rectifier tubes and 4 6L6s and 4 octal pre's. It's okay, Chris. We're just kidding you about the caps. But stop it! Sorry about the spike there in the volume, fellas. Yeah, I always wondered how Mesa got that. They have multiple patents on one is a switchable rectifier, and the other one is having 2 rectifier tubes, which a Fender high-powered twin had 2 rectifier tubes in it.
low power.
Oh, the low power, excuse me. That's right. The low-power twin had 2 rectifier
2
tubes in it.
5V4s.
And so that's what they call intellectual property, prior art. And somehow he got around that. Either that or just Fender didn't catch it when he was filing. He filed it at some jerkwater circuit cord out in the sticks, and no one caught it. But
What are you gonna do?
Actually,
Anthony Johnson says-
Matchless DC30 was pre that patent.
right,
They
but
had-
they only had 2 in there because one was blue, so it switched to the other one.
Mesa DC30.
That's what Samson told me. He's like, we just blew single GZ34, so we put 2 in there. And
Spread it out.
yeah. Says, I need a NorCal dealer. Any plans to get one? I do need a NorCal dealer. There's not many up there. I mean, I try. And unfortunately, one of the things we're seeing in this business is like little boutique shops are going away. It's heartbreaking. But the little boutique shops are going the way of
Was it
record
Banana?
stores.
Was it like Banana?
Bananas at large.
Bananas at large. Do they still exist?
And they're more of a big box kind of model because they do a lot of online
Trying to bridge
sales.
the gap, they do
Yeah.
a lot of
But they used to have,
boutique
a lot
stuff
of
as
people
well.
liked them a lot.
They do, yeah. This could be worth looking into.
Yeah, and I have a contact there too. It's kind of weird. The guy came and talked to us at NAM, and I don't know why we didn't go any further. But thank you for bringing that up, Anthony Johnson. You're right. You know, we had a dealer, Gelb Music, down on the peninsula in San Francisco, and they're one of those little shops that is having a hard time selling stuff. I mean, even here, like in LA, True Tone, you know, great place, got everything under the sun. You know, they're struggling selling high-end gear. And I think it's the coolest store in Southern California. Someone told me yesterday they heard Rudy Pence is going to retire, close the shop in New York, for the same reason. That it's just like, man, you got Sweetwater and you got Musician's Friend, and they're starting to carry high-end gear now, and you know, Sweetwater will ship it to you free with a 30-day trial.
See, to me, that's always been a little surprising. On amps, I could understand that, but on guitars,
Yeah.
I think people really want to pick up the thing and see how it
Yeah.
plays acoustically.
Well, we have this information now. They can go read 50 reviews, and makes people say, well, okay, I'll try it. And I can ship it back if I don't like it,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But not that I'm trying to promote that over going into a store, because I sure love small music stores. But it's a trend, man. It's happening, unfortunately. But Rudy Pence's got to be 70 now, don't you think? I mean, Pence's guitars were like in the mid-70s, right, when they started. And I know they weren't kids when they started that.
Yeah.
I mean, John sort of was young then, because he was the guitar tech
Right.
at Rudy's. But
They're all my age.
I think Rudy's older than you.
Close enough.
Yeah. And
See, 65 and 70.
Right.
so it wouldn't surprise me if Rudy's ready to pack it up. I sure hope not.
Pack it in.
And Rudy's is like the store in New York. It's cool. There's a couple questions for you, Miles. Here, man, we're just ended up with a tech talk today, which is fine. Could any of you speak on using balanced tube in the PI hole versus a plain tube?
Okay, first of all.
So many dirty jokes there. I can't.
First of all, if you have an amp like a Princeton or a London, there's a lot of amps that the phase inverter, only one side of the tube is used.
It's a halfway phase
Right.
inverter, so that it doesn't matter if it's
Matched
balanced.
phase inverters are really important to high-end audio folks, because one side pushes half of the output tubes, the other side pushes the other half.
Mhm.
And if there's an imbalance, you get less sustain and
Mhm.
articulation and everything else.
Like a long-tailed pair phase
Right.
inverter,
Now,
yeah.
in guitar amps, taking a typical Fender like AB763 circuit,
They skew that on purpose.
you have
don't they?
82K plate resistor on one side,
Right.
100K on the other, and that's to stop possible oscillations.
Mhm.
What I have found, though, is that difference is actually less of a percentage when you're using plus or minus 20% parts, especially you can be even
Right.
closer.
Right.
That when I plug match phase inverters into various clients' amps, they notice a difference and they like it.
Mhm.
I like it. Other people say I could care less and it doesn't matter. So it's really kind of a personal preference thing. Most good tube vendors will match that for you
Mhm.
at a pretty
$1.
small, yeah,
Yeah.
a buck or two. So I would always do that. It also means the tube was made better.
Right.
The tolerances, somebody paid more attention when the tube was being made. Tubes are handmade and hand assembled, so the person wasn't as drunk or wasted or tired or whatever that made that tube.
It was right after lunch.
So I personally am a big fan of those,
He's awake.
and all my clients use those.
And then pick and pop, which really the only thing I think of when I see pick and pop is zits. But sorry, that was uncalled for. Pick and Pop says, Miles, what's your opinion on the Maxi Matcher?
I think it's a great device. It's good for little, small shops or guitar techs or people out on the road.
Mm-hmm.
It has it's a real quick way to test things. It is actually substantially more accurate than, for example, the computerized tube equipment that we had at Groove Tubes.
Mhm.
That would go through and it would come up with this number, and then you would take these ranges of numbers
Mhm.
that spanned a scale of about 250 points, and you'd whittle it down to 10
Right.
ratings of 1 to 10.
Right.
So you could get two number 5s that really weren't very well matched.
Right.
Today, most tube vendors will match within a milliamp or so, and the Maxi Matcher does that. And anybody, it's a rugged unit. It's well made. There's a lot of protection circuitry in there, so if the tube
Yeah.
has some kind of a short, you're not going to blow up your testing device.
Right. And it works with real voltages too.
And it works with
It's not like 225
exactly.
volts
It
like
works
a my
with real
Hickok is.
voltages, and
Yeah.
you can train somebody to use. Anybody can use one. They're very easy to use and not complicated and very straightforward. I think they're a terrific device.
So the other question, can I still order a Monterey or custom order a Monterey? Could it be done through Sweetwater for the financing? Yes, absolutely. And we still make all of our amps, just we don't put them on the website because I don't want my dealers to feel like they have to stock 10 amplifiers to represent the line. Pick and pop is Gary Eugene Thompson. I figured after the interchange this morning, I'm just giving you a hard time about this. If you got bad skin, I don't care.
That AT1000 question, that's the best tube. That's the best tube tester on the market. Roger Kennedy does that out in Santa Monica. But that's something that's more for a tube, somebody in a tube factory or a developer, somebody that really wants to do some serious testing.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't like about the AT1000, and it's just a personal issue with me, is the AT1000 will print out curve traces and things, but what it does is it takes a snapshot when it gives you the data. It takes a snapshot for a millisecond while the tube is under test, and those are the numbers it gives you, which are very good and they're accurate. I tend to like to use a curve tracer where I can actually look on a scope at what's going on, because that tells me about noise and how the two sides interact. Joe Borday at 65 amps at the factory, he would have a problem with some preamp tubes, and I'd put them on my curve tracer, and he would look at the two sides, and at one point, it's, you know, they'll be kind of like this. I have some pictures posted of various curve traces in various places, and you really want them to lay on each other to be matched, but sometimes he would see something like this, and that would be an amp under test for you, and we'd pull the tube and throw it away, and Joe deemed that trace as the classic crossing.
Oh, the classic crossing.
And so whenever I'd find tubes like this, I would put CC on the tube in Sharpie.
And we'd sell those to the guys in
And
Portland.
everybody knew, you
CC to go.
know, we had the inside thing, but you cannot see that on an AT1000. But the AT1000 and an RCA WT100 are the two best tube testers, you know, out there, or two of the best.
Right. So the other thing I wanted to bring up a minute ago, Rock and Roll really, you know, he says he wants to do it through Sweetwater for the financing. And that's another thing that's killing the small stores. I mean, if you've got a reasonable credit score, Sweetwater will finance you for 6 months, up to 18 months on certain things. And boy, you know, what was the store that used to, it was Musician's Friend when they were originally up in Seattle, when they first started, before they moved to Oregon. They used to offer financing to like anybody, like Sears. You know, you walk in, hey, does your heart beat? Yeah, here's a credit card. And I remember clearly I bought a bunch of stuff from them just for that, because I could give them $200 a month, you know, for 6 or 8 months. I think that Musician's Friend used to finance for a year. It's like, okay, I can afford $200 a month and get a nice amp or a nice guitar. It's tough, man. It's hard to compete. You know, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing is kind of subjective, but it's the world right now.
I mean, I think the message is, if you like those experiences, those boutique dealer experiences,
Right.
then support them.
It's service
If
is what
if-
you're paying
right,
for, yeah.
If you like that and you don't need financing and you don't need things to show up at your front door delivered by a drone or something.
Right.
You know,
You want to go sit in the store and
yeah.
have your hand held a little bit and
Right.
go there multiple times to make
Right.
sure it's what you want.
Right.
And,
Then that is where you should spend, because we vote
Yeah.
with our wallets, right? So
Right.
that's the kind of situation that you should support. Don't be the guy that goes into the store that gives you all the effort
Right.
and goes home and orders it online.
and that's the other part of what's going on, is a lot of my dealers are saying that, you know, especially like in California where the sales tax is almost 10%,
Yeah.
they'll go play it at a boutique store, not just my gear, but anybody's gear, and then they'll go order it, free shipping, no tax, you know, on the internet. And it's hard, you know, if you're buying a $3,000 amp, it's $300 worth of tax. You can't really argue with that. You know, $300 is $300. So it's an interesting world. You know, the interstate tax thing, I assume will get changed at some point, because we're all getting away with murder ordering stuff on the internet. You know, it's really either that or we need to have a national sales tax and no state sales tax or something. You know, but like all the other modern countries, just have a straight tax across the country.
Smarter people than us will figure that out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, people in
Um,
government.
Well, I mean,
What?
look at Europe right now. That's an
Huh?
extreme example of it. Like, you know, the VAT in England is 19%. The VAT in Norway is 25%. The VAT in Switzerland is 7%. So it's worth it for my customers in France, where the VAT I think is 21%.
Yeah.
It's worth it for them to take a day trip down to Switzerland and buy an amp
Yeah.
and just drive it back home. Hey, we'll take the kids skiing. We'll go to Stad, you know, and save $300-400 or more in tax, saving that much, even though they're still paying tax. So, you know, and that's why Europe's never going to be united, but we're experiencing small versions of that here. So, I personally, I love going into little music stores and having a smart guy behind the counter direct me, and also I like if something goes wrong, I like to go back to the same guy and go help. That's worth some extra money to me, but I get it. I've had both kinds of experience in boutique shops, really good and very cold here in SoCal. Well, I mean, you are working with humans, so I know, for example, I'm not going to say names, but there's a very popular store here in Southern California where some days the guy that runs the place beats the shit out of everyone in the store, and then you happen to walk in 10 minutes later and they're like, hi, how you doing? Yeah, just play whatever you want. And then there's another big popular store here where the guys are all happy and knowledgeable, and you can say, I don't know what I'm doing, I really want to get this kind of sound, and they're smart enough to go, okay, well, you want maybe this guitar and this amp, and this amp is a cathode biased amp, so it's going to act differently than a grid biased amp, et cetera, et cetera. So it just kind of, they are people. Haas Thompson says in the UK things work a little differently. The shops generally don't have independent finance deals; they use finance companies. So we still get to support local dealers. Yeah, we used to have that here in the U.S. too. I mean, I remember every music store when I was a kid, they'd finance you through the local bank or a local finance company.
The rest of music did that through like GE Credit or something.
Yeah, GE Credit was a big one, but they were just like little local companies, you know. Like if you couldn't get a